Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FTD webinar titled Building an E-commerce Strategy, Part 1 in a 5-part series. We are thrilled to welcome back today's featured presenter, Krista Neher, founder and CEO of Bootcamp Digital. As just mentioned, this is only part 1 of what's sure to be an incredible 5-part webinar series, Mastering E-commerce. Before we get started, I have some quick housekeeping notes. Check out the handout section on the control panel to download a PDF of Krista's presentation, as well as several other helpful resources. Also, Krista will be taking questions throughout the webinar. Simply type your questions in that question box on the control panel. And I happen to know that Krista loves an interactive webinar with questions. All right, let's get started. Welcome back, Krista.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. I'm really excited that FTD is putting this session on for you today because the website is the foundation of your online presence. And what I think a lot of businesses don't always think about is even commerce that doesn't go directly through your site is often influenced by your site. Almost everyone is Googling businesses and going to their website when deciding who to do business with. And it could be something as simple as checking your hours or seeing what all you have to offer. But the truth of the matter is that your website really is a vital part in the customer journey and a thing that people go to get information and make purchase decisions. So I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about your website, how you can improve it, as well as some of the best practices for it. Now, if you have questions, feel free to either pop them into the chat or the questions panel. The chat everyone can see, so that could also be a nice interactive way to discuss with each other. So those are kind of your key ways to interact. And as Janet mentioned, I do love questions and conversation. I'll be asking you all some questions that you can answer in the chat as we go through our time together today. But maybe just to get us started, why doesn't everyone share in the chat where they're joining us from? And that way we all know where the chat is, and we can also see if there's anyone in our neighborhood joining. I'm currently based in Orlando, literally at this exact moment, but I live in South Florida. And I previously lived in Ohio, and I'm originally from Toronto. So maybe some of you are from similar places. I see we have someone joining us from LA, super nice. Right now in Florida, we have there's massive storms in Orlando. So hopefully you have better weather where you are. But if you can take a minute, just share in the chat or the question panel where you're joining from, and that'll help get us off to an interactive start. But I'm gonna start our time together today in sort of 2 key buckets. First, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you some background about the role of your website to get you thinking strategically. Then I'm gonna give you some actionable best practices. Then we're gonna actually go to websites and take a look at some specific sites and see how they're applying the best practices. And I have mostly florist sites and one other site that a friend of mine runs to help you see what this looks like. So that's how we're gonna break up our time. I'm gonna give you the ideas in sort of a structured way, and then we're gonna see them brought to life with tons of examples and discussion. If you have questions at all as we go, you're trying to figure out how to apply this to yourself, or you're wondering how effective something really is, please ask. One of the things that's really important to me is that you're getting what you need out of our time together, because I'm here to make sure you have everything you need to take your e-commerce site to the next level. So with that, let's get started. So when we think high level about websites, a few things to keep in mind about the role they play. The first thing is that people only spend about 7 seconds on your website, specifically on your homepage. So what this means is that we need to get our message across quickly and efficiently, because there's 2 kind of competing ideas you need to think about really with all your online marketing, but especially your website. The first is people don't have a lot of time, right? 7 seconds on your homepage, that's all you got. So on the one hand, we see that people don't have a ton of time. On the other hand, what we see is that they're actually sort of super duper interested in doing research, learning things, and getting educated. So we have two competing things we need to almost do at the same time. We need to make our site communicate quickly and efficiently for people who are going to make snap decisions. But at the same time, we want all the right information really well organized so people can get what they need to make decisions. And I'm going to show you how to do this, and we'll look at some actual examples. 75% of people determine the credibility of a company by visiting a website. So if somebody said, oh, you need to check out this business, if I said, oh man, maybe I'm on a Facebook group and I said, I need to send flowers, who do you recommend? And someone recommends some florists. The first thing I'm going to do is go to their websites. And this is where you need to ask yourself if your site has that sort of just general credibility and professionalism that makes people take your business seriously. 90% of people are searching for online products. That's probably not surprising. 70 to 80% of people research a company, and 74% say it has a direct influence on purchase decisions. Even if you're not transacting a lot of business through your website, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not having an impact on what people choose to buy. So always keep in mind that those two things aren't necessarily directly related. So I just wanted to set the stage about sort of the role of websites and their importance before we dive in to really focus our time on what is it that makes a good website. So why are websites so important? The first thing is it's the center of your online presence. It's basically the front door to your business. Even someone who's been in your shop, they can go to your website to look for hours. Maybe they want to see what you have in stock, etc. It also ranks in search engines, which means it can expose you to brand new audiences. It grows your credibility, and of course, it drives sales. We're seeing e-commerce make up more and more of many businesses. And in fact, one of the florists I'll show you, it says right on their website that they don't allow people, they phrase it nicer than this, but it basically says like, you can only order online. We don't have people coming into our store anymore. So interesting to think about. As you look at your website on a high level, so you want to start high level, and then I'm going to get really tactical. So I'm going to give you specific tips. But when we start high level, you want to say a little bit like, okay, high level, what am I trying to do? So your first question should be, what are the main reasons someone's visiting your website? And depending on the nature of business, you could have a number of these. So maybe you have 3 or 4 different reasons someone comes to your site. Maybe you have an audience that goes in your doors all the time, and for that audience, it's things like hours, what you have in stock, basic store information. If you're transacting a lot online, they're probably going to find and choose a product. Think about why people are visiting your site, and in marketing, we would call these user personas, and we would build user journeys. What that really means is you say, well, for these different types of people, what are their needs, what are their wants, and is my website fulfilling them? That's how simple it is. So I feel like marketers like to use fancy words, right? Like build user personas and user journeys. And the truth of the matter is, all you're really trying to do is say, well, who are my customers? What are the steps that they would take? And how do I meet them where they are? So that's what we're thinking about as we sort of think about, why is someone visiting my site? I want to then put myself in their shoes and see if they can get their needs met on my site, right? The second thing we want to ask, once we know why people are visiting, how easy it is for them to find what they need. A lot of the times when I work with small businesses and I'll say, well, do you think a lot of people want to like figure out your location or your hours? They're like, yeah, we get a lot of visitors. And I'll ask them, well, how hard is it to find? And their answer is, well, it's on our site. I'm like, okay, my question wasn't, is it on your site? My question was, how hard is it to find? Content on your site can be very difficult for people to find. So what you want to look at is your information organized well? Are things where people expect them to be? That's really vital to your success. Do you have calls to action to convert your browsers into visitors? The truth of the matter, and we'll touch on this a little more as we go, but many of the people who visit your website may not make a decision today, or they may not even be looking to buy today. So maybe Mother's Day is coming up and it's 3 or 4 weeks out and I'm just in shopping mode. So I'm just in shopping mode. I'm not going to make a decision today, but maybe it would be great if you could offer me an incentive to get my email, so then you could market to me over time and help me to convert. So calls to action, you'll see on a lot of the florist sites we'll look at on the product page, of course, the calls to action are things like add to cart. But throughout your site, you want to think about different calls to action for visitors in different stages of the buying cycle, right? Again, some people may just be in thinking mode. So if we can capture their information, we could close the sale. And you see, I'm a big online shopper, I buy everything on the internet. But you see this a lot in e-commerce, right? Where the first time you visit a site, it has these pop-ups that are like, get 20% off your first order, give us your email. And the reason is that they know if they can nurture that relationship with email or other channels, they're much more likely to earn more customers and more life cycle business from the same customer. So that's what we're really thinking about there. Does your website build trust and close sales? I'm going to give you some really specific trust builders that you can add into your site. But one of the things that's important, a lot of people, when we talk about websites, they get really caught up in the visuals and the design. The visuals should be strategically good, but the most important thing is that your site looks sort of like modern and like most websites look these days. A lot of people, if they go to a site that looks really outdated, they would just question the business credibility a little bit, right? Like, oh, their website looks like it's 20 years old. What would my experience be like with this kind of a business that's just not staying up to date on things? So usually you don't need to get too caught up in the design. You need to think more about, does this look like a professional modern website? And the good news about that is this is easier to do than ever before, right? The FTD Mercury Online platform through Shopify makes it super simple to have a website that looks professional and serious. And there's lots of different services that are available to make websites now. Shopify is the biggest e-commerce platform out there. And the truth is what these do is they just make it easy for your site out of the gates to just generally look good, which is a big part of it. And then the next question is, are you positioning your company effectively? One of the things to keep in mind, if I'm looking at something like flowers, especially if I'm shopping online, I got options. What you want to think about is what is it that's set you apart from my other options, and make sure your website resonates that. So that's what we really want to think about. So I wanted to share with you these high-level questions to ask, because this is kind of like how you would evaluate your website on a high level. The easiest way, though, to think about website design is just this one phrase implanted in your brain. Don't make me think. Don't make me think. Sometimes people want to get creative with websites, and instead of saying like products, they'll say like floral designs, or I don't know, right? I shouldn't have to guess or think. Everything should be where it's expected. Your menu should always be at the top. You should have certain information in your footer that basically every website has in their footer, right? Your contact information, ideally in the top header on your homepage, or at least there's a contact tab up there. Your logo should be in the top center or the top left, depending on the design. The key to success when it comes to websites is you want them to look similar to other websites, because people shouldn't have to think to find information or navigate your site. That should be easy for them. If they have to think about where to find things, guess what they're not thinking about? Your business and the messages you're trying to convey. So don't make people think. When we talk about that, it comes down to user experience. And I wanted to share with you the 7 elements of user experience. And I get it, again, we're still a little bit at a high level here, because I do have tips on like how to optimize your images on your product pages. So we are going to get tactical, because I know that's sometimes where we can all get quick wins. But what I would encourage you to do before you get too tactical is to look at these 7 elements of user experience and look at your website and ask yourself if your website is doing a good job in all of these areas. So is it useful? That means I can easily find your products. I also, maybe if it's a graduation, I'm going to get some really cool, interesting ideas about graduation gifts, right? That would be useful for me. That if I want to send someone graduation flowers, it's not necessarily just flowers, but what are some of the useful things you could give me? Maybe it's gift guides, things like that. So usefulness is the primary thing. What information do people need to know? If I'm ordering online, I probably want to have a bit of detail about what the shipping timing looks like, how big is the window, how far in advance do I need to order? These are all basic pieces of information that are useful for them to choose to do business with you. So when you, in that first set of questions I showed you, one of them was like, who's the target audiences, right? Or who are the different people on your site and why are they there? Go back, look at those personas you built, and then evaluate them for these 7 things. So somebody who maybe mostly shops in the store, there's different things that would be useful to them than somebody online who maybe lives in a different location and wants to send these to their loved ones. The next is usable. Usability really means that it's easy for people to find what they want. And it goes back to that point, don't make me think. Usability means the buttons are where I expected them to, they're called what I expect them to be called, and they're easy to find. Findable means that I'm easily able to find the information on your site. Some businesses have like searchable product categories. So let's say I wanted blue flowers, I could search by color. Others have pre-existing categories, so they maybe don't allow search, they only allow browsing, but you want to make sure that your content is as findable as possible. Next up, we have credibility. Credibility is more vital with e-commerce than anything else. If I walk into your store and the flowers are half dead, I see that with my eyes and I choose to not buy them. When I'm buying online, I don't know what I'm going to get. Credibility is absolutely vital because people are skeptical. And one of the things they're very skeptical about is the quality of the products they're going to get when shopping online. I'm sure everyone has been burned by an online purchase, good or bad maybe, right? So maybe not burned, but we've all been surprised by an online purchase. I was just joking. I have a portable speaker. It's like this big. And I brought it somewhere, and one of my friends was like, "That thing is huge." And I was like, I bought it online. I thought I was buying something this size. It's this size, right? People are worried about whether or not they're doing business with credible businesses. So we want to make sure we're showing our credibility as much as possible. We want to be desirable. I think this is something that when I look at a lot of websites in your industry, this is a missing element, I think, even amongst some of the best websites out there, is this desirability. That's where you're positioning your content in a way that I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom would have really loved that, right? I need this specific thing because it's going to be so great. If you want to see how people make content desirable in general, spend some time on TikTok or Instagram Reels, right? A lot of the way things become desirable is the positioning and the words around them, right? If you watch a lot of Instagram Reels, and if you have any examples, feel free to share them. But like I've been seeing all these food videos with like cottage cheese. This is the new obsession of TikTok, I think. And people will be like, oh my gosh, don't you want to make this high protein dessert? And it tastes amazing, right? It's actually kind of a disgusting cottage cheese chocolate concoction, but the positioning, oh my gosh, this is super high protein and it's really delicious. That's the kind of stuff that gets people excited. And so as we're thinking about this, what we really want to be thinking about is how do we position our content in a way that gets people excited and gets them wanting to actually buy from us, right? And I see a hand raise in the attendee section. I would say if you can go ahead and share your question or comment in chat or the Q&A, that'll help me to moderate them as we go. So if you have comments or questions, pop them into the chat or Q&A. The hand raise will allow us to, I don't actually know if we can turn your audio on, but the better way to do it will be through chat or Q&A, and that way we can see your question and answer it specifically. So anyways, desirability is really key to making sure people actually want to do this, right? You're creating this deep desire, like, wow, I can't wait to do this. Accessibility is all about making sure that different types of people can easily access and understand the content on your site. And then the last one is be valuable, right? What is it that I want from your site, and make sure you're giving me that. So these are kind of like your 7 cornerstones that make up a strong website experience. I would start with those questions I gave you first, and then the user experience stuff second, in order to really, get strategic about your site and be a little bit less tactical. In the handouts for this course, we do have a website e-commerce checklist that's got these in like a little checkbox for you to make it really, really easy for you to then take action and apply what you learn. So download if you look at the handouts, there's 4 handouts that are there for you. The most important thing, the most important thing that has a summary to help you build your action plan is the e-commerce websites checklist. So download all of them, but that's the one that kind of summarizes a lot of the stuff, and that can be your implementation guide. So you can go through this as you're looking to implement all of the areas that we cover. Okay, so I wanted to start with a little bit of high-level strategy, but now I want to get into some site best practices. Now, again, I am going to go through these a little bit quickly because we're going to do live site reviews and actually look at sites and discuss all of these elements on real websites, both florist sites and other sites, okay? So best practices, some of these are pretty obvious. The first is that the navigation should be clear and easy. So you want to make sure that it's as easy as possible for people to navigate your website. They can find what they need to find, and you're inspiring them and pushing them toward the products you want. Link to other social assets where possible. So if you're on Instagram, Facebook, any of these other sites, especially if you have good content there, make sure you link to them for your social email or from your social marketing. Use your website to grow your email list. Make sure you have opt-in opportunities so people can learn about special offers you have, and then have one single website for your business. I know when I've looked at small businesses and florists for that matter, oftentimes one business will have multiple websites. Sometimes it's because they're offered different ones, or I don't really know the logic behind it, but you never want more than one website. You should only ever have one website for your business presence. The next thing is aim when you can to be accessible and answer questions with your audience. So if you think about it, one of the biggest things I would want to know is if you're going to deliver on time, how early I have to order, how long is that delivery window going to be, what if no one's home, right? Especially if you're thinking about online ordering. Make sure that kind of information is crystal clear and easy for people to access. Have your contact information front and center. If possible, put it right in the header of your website so that people will call and will reach out. You want someone to just call and ask a quick question instead of going somewhere else because they can't find the answers they're looking for and they have no way to contact you. Live chat is another opportunity where people can ask you or chat questions in real time. And live chat's shown to dramatically increase commerce on websites because people can get their questions answered usually quickly or in real time, and that increases conversion rates. Next, we'll talk about the homepage. It's important to keep in mind the goal of your homepage. The goal of your homepage is to get them to the next best page, right? Most of the time, your homepage isn't actually where they're going to choose their product from. The homepage is their gateway to your website. On average, people only spend 7 seconds on your website, 7 seconds. So you need to use this page strategically. The first thing it needs to do is build trust. Especially in e-commerce, it's more vital than anything else, but you need to build trust. I need to see that you're a good company that's done a lot of stuff. And I have a whole list of trust builders that I'll show you. The second thing is you want to position your business well. Look, especially if I'm ordering online, there's 4 or 5 places I could order from. If I'm buying stores in person, the location is always more vital. If I'm buying online, I have more options that oftentimes seem interchangeable. What is it that makes you stand out? Maybe you offer a guarantee. Maybe you offer something else that really helps you to stand out and build trust with your audience. The main goal is to get me to the next page, but you could also use it to maybe highlight some features or benefits that would increase desire, right? Like with Mother's Day coming up, not now obviously, but if Mother's Day was coming up, you could do like some key features for Mother's Day right on that homepage. So part of it too is you want to keep your homepage updated to be contextually relevant, right? For example, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, maybe Father's Day. I don't know if people send fathers flowers, but whatever these core flower buying times are, you should have a plan where a certain amount of time up front, you're revamping your homepage to drive desire and action for those specific products. So I talked a lot about trust builders. These are some things that you can do to build trust. And these are all listed in that checklist that I told you about. It's in the handout section. Make sure you download it. Have reviews if you can. Reviews are the most trusted thing because they're believed to be unbiased. If you can, have reviews at the product level. And I'll show you examples of what this looks like so you can see it in action. But if you don't have a strategy yet to start getting reviews from happy customers, build one. It's really important, and it's one of the top things people look at before they make a decision. If you think about flowers, and I'll ask you, I know, I guess the chat isn't working right now, but you can use the question box. So just share your answer in the question box. What is the #1 thing that people are worried about when they buy flowers online? Share I can tell you what I think it is, but you all probably know better than I do. So if I was going to buy flowers online, what would be my #1 concern? And type that #1 concern into the questions box. So you can just post it as a question, don't worry about it. But share in the question, what is the #1 concern you think people have when it comes to purchasing flowers online? And I'll give you a second to share your answers in there. So I got one answer, which is delivery time. I think that's probably a big one, right? Are they going to get there on time? Because most flowers are occasion centric. So it's really, really important that they're there on time. There's a different answer I have in mind. And we'll give it a second and see if anyone comes up with the other answer I have in mind. And again, just share it as a question. Are the flowers fresh? Is what Angela has put in. Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know that they care so much. I don't know what fresh means to me in flowers. I want them to look good, right? Are they going to look good or will they be half dead, which is basically what you're saying by fresh, right? Quality and prettiness is what Christina said. Yeah, why? Right? Why are we worried? Because we see these pictures that don't look real, and I'm going to give you tips for pictures as well, but we see these pictures that don't look real. And if we've ordered flowers multiple times, there's a good chance either we or someone we know has had an experience where the flowers ended up half dead. I know that's something I see a lot of when I look at reviews of florists online and when I start looking at things. And I get it, quality is an issue. I live in Florida, it's so hot, right? I can't imagine having to try to keep things fresh through an entire stage of a delivery process. But these are all things people are worried about. Will they actually be there when they said they would? Because if you miss my mom's birthday, you might as well not bring them, right? That's how a lot of people think. Are they going to look exactly, George or Jorge, I'm not sure, but has said, are the flowers going to look like they do on the picture? Are they fresh? Are they high quality? Everyone's kind of saying the same things, and those would be all the things on my mind. What you need to make sure of is that your website uniquely addresses these concerns, right? It's kind of amazing. Everyone had all the same answers, and they're the same things that I have in my mind as a consumer. We know the problems people have, right? Ask yourself on your site, are you addressing these concerns anywhere? And that's what trust builders are really all about. One thing that I'm covering in images that I don't have on this list but could be here as well is user-generated content. If I saw a lot of pictures of people receiving their flowers and the flowers looked fresh, they looked pretty, they looked like the picture, that would help me build trust, right? So user-generated content, we're going to talk about it in images, but it would also help to build trust. But we also have things like reviews. So if you get a review process set up sooner rather than later, that's going to be a huge opportunity. Testimonials is another one. If people have said good things, put them on your website. If you're trying to choose between reviews and testimonials, reviews are always more trusted because they're perceived to be less biased. So a testimonial is where you just take what someone said and you write it out and put it on your site. Reviews is where you use a tool that gets third-party reviews, typically with stars associated, and you can usually see the name of the person who's left the review. So reviews just tend to be more trusted, so you should prefer reviews over testimonials. If you're a member of any associations, if you've won any awards, what about a guarantee, right? We talked about what are the biggest concerns. If the biggest concern is that they're not going to look like they're supposed to, and I'm going to feel embarrassed, or, you know, my mom's not going to like them, then having a guarantee is a really good way to show you take this seriously and put your money where your mouth is. If you have a client list, if you've worked with big clients or you work with big venues that have good reputations, you can add things like that on. And then of course the shopper approved plugin is also a great way to do this. And I'm going to show you this in real time, but it actually includes star ratings right on your website. And then finally, we have our Google listing and review. Now, Janet had mentioned at the beginning, this is a part of a longer series. So we have an entire series dedicated to your online presence overall, and that's where we'll go into your Google listing and reviews in a lot more detail. So we want to focus our time together today on websites. But these are all things you can add to your website to help abate the fears, right? To stop the reasons people don't buy. Okay, next let's talk about how to optimize a product page. So if you have a product page, okay, this is the page dedicated to my flowers. So we started with the site overall, right? And now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of some of your most important elements. When it comes to the page itself, first, make sure you have a clear title for the product. It should be clear to users and search engines. So think about it. If I'm looking for, maybe I know that someone I care about likes, I don't know, orchids, and I'm searching specifically for orchids, you would want to make sure orchids is in the title. At the same time, if I'm searching for great gifts for mom, ideally you'd want to show up for that as well. So think about both users and search engines and try to come up with intuitive titles for your pages. Make sure the way the page is laid out and organized is easy to follow and find information. One of the good news about these sites that are built off of Shopify's framework is that these big e-commerce platforms, they just design things the way people expect to see them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they know what people want out of an e-commerce site and they just build that right in. So if you're using the templates available to you, it should be easy to organize your information well. But that being said, really look at, do I just have these like big blocks of text that I'm not able to, do I have these two big boxes of text that I'm not able to organize, or could I chop this into bullet points, right? That's what we want to think about, is organizing the information to make it easy to follow. Next is make sure you have the right information. What is the information they need to be able to purchase? Do they need to know how many flowers are in there? Do they need to know that the container is glass or wood? Whatever information they may need, make sure it's in there in order to drive the purchase. Make sure it's easy and clear for people to buy the product. That's probably the most obvious one. And then of course, optimize it for search engines. I see a comment came through from Angela. Angela said, you've had 2 reviews that were not happy, but in both situations, it was actually a different shop in town. That's crazy. After calling the customer, they were happy with you for helping them, but how can you get rid of or change a review? And you say it devastated you. I'm a business owner too, and it's like, it does really upset you personally when people leave bad reviews. I get it. So it depends on what platform it is. Different platforms have different abilities for you to reply to comments. If you talk to them, I would really ask them, I would say, you know, your review's actually hurting my business. Would you mind taking it down? So also you can go leave the bad review for the people who did this to you if you want. So it would have been an opportunity when you spoke with them. You can, in most cases, report reviews where the person hasn't done business with you. So I would report the review as a non-customer if you can on that platform. And if you have other people who can do it as well, get as many people as possible to report it. So it's like, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of these works, right? The other thing that I would do is I would leave a comment back and say, you know, I appreciated talking to you, and it seems like that we had both agreed that this was for a different florist. I'm so sad to hear you had a bad experience with them. You know, like, just kind of comment on the page and make it respond to the post publicly, but make it obvious that it was not you. That's really all you can do. So you can try and get them to act on it. You can report it to try and get the platform to remove it. Or you can add your own comment and clearly say that it wasn't you, but you don't really have a lot of other good options, unfortunately. So that sucks. Okay, some product page growth tips. So let's say I'm on your site, I'm on your products page, and now what you really want to do is incentivize me to buy quickly and buy from you. Look at having limited time offers. Nothing gets people moving like a sale. I don't know how many of you know, but it's Prime Day for 2 days. Amazon Prime gets millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars more business on Prime Day because the deals allegedly are limited to 2 days. When it comes to having a sale, they say if you don't have a deadline, you don't have an offer. So discounting and other tactics are shown to increase purchases. One thing you can do is just recommend certain products on the page. So if I look for gifts for mom, you could be like, have a little flag over a product that says like top picks for mom, right? Just a little recommendation for it even. Sales, discounts, bundles, BOGOs, add-ons, all of these things can actually increase somebody's purchase intent. Even things like tags that just say popular, top rated, recommended, all of those things are actually shown to increase sales. So if you've ever gone to a restaurant, hopefully everyone's gone to a restaurant, right? But especially large chains, they do this perfectly. You open up the menu and you'll see it says like chef recommends or most popular. If you learn about menu psychology, there's 2 things to know about this. The first is just putting those little popular chef recommends on it is shown to increase sales of those products. So they can see that just saying these things adds sales, and online studies show the same. Adding most popular, top rated, recommended, having a page with most popular offerings. All of those things make people feel more comfortable buying, right? Because we feel like it's less risk if we buy the most popular flowers than if we buy something else. So the first thing is these grow sales. The second thing is they're usually not the most popular or the best or the most recommended. It's based on what's most profitable for the restaurant. So now you'll never do the chef recommendations again, but that's how it goes. Okay, let's talk about image recommendations. Probably the images are one of the top things that matter. When we look at e-commerce in general, images are vital and they're only becoming more important. I buy a lot of clothes on the internet, and a trend that I've seen that's really interesting is that they'll show, let's say I'm shopping for yoga pants, I can change the size of the model. So I could see it on someone small, medium, or large. And to me, that's helpful because seeing what it looks like on their typical models isn't helpful to me because I'm much larger than these people, right? So what they're doing is they're adding different images to help overcome barriers to buying. Oh, that looks good on that size 0 person. What would it look like on me though? Right? They're overcoming a barrier they have, but they're also building desire and sort of overcoming some of the fears that I might have about buying the product. So look to have multiple photos if you can, lots of different pictures, realistic images. If it looks like a stock photo, people don't believe it. And when I asked what are people's biggest concerns, you guys said that it looks like the pictures, that the flowers are fresh. Use as many realistic photos as you can that looks like you took them. If they're visually stunning, that'll work better. And you know, that sounds like maybe not super clear, but the key to success is these pictures that someone's like, oh, wow, right? You can also look to add short videos. You're starting to see this in lots of industries. I buy a lot of promotional products online, like pens and cups and stuff, and they have a bunch of pictures, but now they'll also have videos because in a video, I can see the scale sometimes, right? If someone's holding it, you could see the scale. You could do a quick video of someone just like smelling them and smiling, and maybe the camera just rotates around the person for 3 minutes, but that gives a lot of information. I can see the size of them. I can guess the weight of them maybe, right? So look at different ways you can incorporate that. And then of course, user-generated content. Real photos of real people always works better than our own photos. You also want to optimize your description. Use desirable language. Sometimes when I'm like, you know, why are people buying a particular flower arrangement? It's not necessarily like because it has 4 of these and 6 of those and whatever, right? Use desirable language, right? This luscious bouquet is gonna, is sure to wow anyone. I don't know. I'm not the best copywriter, but you get the point. Use desirable language. Be clear and descriptive so people know what they're getting. Be as specific as possible. So there's people who want a lot of specificity. Give them as much information as you can. Maybe they want to know how long these flowers typically last. You could put that in the description, etc. Use bullets and emojis if you need to break up longer descriptions. Make sure it's search engine friendly. So again, the keywords people would look for, that could be things like the color, the size, the occasion. Make sure those are all in your description. More is okay when it comes to descriptions as long as you keep it organized. So just make sure it's well organized, and you can also use the description to answer common questions. So I've been teasing you about doing this since the beginning, that we're going to go look at some websites, right? So let me stop the share for a second, and I'm going to call up some websites, and we are going to take a look at them. Okay, so you can see my screen now, and I have some websites up to show you. Now, one of the things, and again, if you have questions or comments, please ask. So I want to make sure you can apply these ideas to your own site. So as we're looking at stuff and you have questions, just jump in and ask them. Just so you know, I don't typically save a bunch of time at the end for questions, because I would love for you to just ask them as we go. So please try and ask your questions as we go. If there's anything you're trying to figure out, how would you apply it to yourself? So I wanted to show you this first because this is my friend Rob and Steve Snell, they're brothers. This is their e-commerce website. And what's really interesting is they basically, the company's called Gun Dog Supply, and they sell like dog supplies for dogs that hunt, like hunting dogs. So they sell like everything you need for your hunting dog. And what's really interesting, if you think about their particular business, is that anything you could buy on their site, you probably could buy somewhere else, possibly cheaper, right? You could buy it on Amazon, you could buy it on Walmart, you could buy it on PetSmart. And this is a small business, but they sell over $20 million, and they're the biggest retailer in Starkville, Mississippi. So when we look at their website, what are some of the things that they do well? And if you have any observations or questions, please feel free to type them into the questions section, because I would love to take a look at, see what your insights are as well. But like, look, when we look at the header, what you see right away is they use the header to build your trust and grow their authenticity. People choosing small businesses often do it because of the authenticity of that business. And you see they start with that. We train our dogs with these products that we sell, and it's 100% true. If you look through this site, you'll see tons of videos of Steve showing the products in use and talking about them. That's also something you could do as a business owner, right? Hey, Mother's Day is coming up. You may not be sure what to buy. I'm going to share with you our 5 most popular bouquets and tell you about the pros and cons of each of them, right? Oh, maybe this one lasts the longest. Maybe this one is the biggest, so it's super dramatic if you really want to, make a statement. Whatever, right? You can create video content like this as well, which I'll show you some of the stuff he does. You can see they have a phone number available right in the header. So I don't have to go looking for their contact information. If I'm not sure, because trust is a big thing, I can see it right here. They also do shopper approved. You see they have it right at the top. So right at the top, right in your face, waiting to get you. Free shipping on orders over $89. They know that shipping is something people care deeply about, and they put that information right there. They also address their most common questions. Now, I would say putting some of this stuff at the top is pretty unusual as an execution, but it shows the importance of the prominence, right? Shipping and ordering information, questions and comments, right? So they know the barriers people have and the most common questions, and they've gone out of their way to make these super prominent for their audience. You'll see also, containment system savings, peace and quiet sale, buy the dozen big dummy sale. I don't really know what that means. I don't have a dog, and I definitely don't have a hunting dog. Here we see another thing we talked about, Steve's Pick, bestseller. Steve's Pick, bestseller, Steve's Pick, right? All of this is driving you towards certain products. Amazon does this too. The reason everyone does it, it works. So that's why they all do this kind of stuff, right? So then I'm just gonna click on, well, this is Steve's pick. So obviously that's the product I ought to look at, right? And you see they have a couple of different flags. They have Steve's pick, popular, Steve's pick, and bestseller that they use across the board, right? And so here they have some information. They do all their own photos. You see all the pictures up here. They actually take their own pictures because they feel like this differentiates them versus the manufacturers. If you take pictures and optimize them well, the pictures themselves can show up in search engines. And often their pictures show up above the pictures from the manufacturers, interestingly. And then you see here, here's a video, here's Steve's review. And it looks super authentic. You can tell he's tried the product and he's giving you an honest review of it. And then he also has a video about fitting it. Then they go into some details. So there's a ton of information on this page, but it's well organized. Now, some of you may be sitting there and being like, Krista, I run a business. I have to like get flowers, make arrangements, and this website of my marketing is this small part of what occupies my brain and the small thing that I have time for. Here's the good news. You don't need to do this for every product you carry. And in fact, you shouldn't. It only would demonstrate a lack of prioritization, right? Most businesses of any category, if you look at your catalog of what you sell online, 20% of your products are driving 80% of your sales. Start with your most popular products, your most popular categories. Maybe at Mother's Day, you say, you know, I'm going to take the 5 most popular products from Mother's Day last year and I'm going to do a comparison video on them. And at the same time, I'll record a video for each bouquet so people can really see what it looks like. And we are alleviating some of their fears and we're giving them more information. These are the kind of things that can help you to stand out from your competitors. And again, if you're feeling already overwhelmed about like, oh, I do need to take better pictures, I do need to have some videos, you don't do it all at once, right? Just start with your most popular stuff, look for a difference in your results, and then expand it to more things. So that's like a way you can make this a little less daunting. So if we look, we have videos, we have really good images, and you see they have images of it on an actual dog, right? So they have not just standard product images, but they also have images that I would call in context, meaning it shows the product being used. And if you were to compare this, like how do they have a $20 million business when you could just buy these products on PetSmart? This is why, right? Because they're doing all these little things that link to the psychology of why people buy and making it easier for them to purchase from them. Another thing we notice in the description, what's new, and it's a nice organized bulleted list, so it's easy for someone to consume if they don't want to read all the words, right? And then they have all of the features listed below. They have, you got 30 days to train your dog risk-free from Steve, right? Like super personable, a lot of really good information. And look at all the information about everything, right? This is a much better shopping experience for most people than the kind of experience they get on other sites. And that's why they're able to grow. So let's switch gears and look at some florists. So we can see some of the different ways some of these best practices are being implemented on other websites that you look at. So this is interesting, right? Order by noon to send flowers and gifts with same-day delivery to Erlanger, Kentucky. So here's one of the things to think about. So before somebody says to me, is that what we should have at our top, order by noon? You should have at the top whatever you think is going to earn you the most business. If you get a ton of calls of people saying, could you deliver these the same day? Then put that at the top. So you're answering that question, and also make sure it's in your FAQ. It's in where you put delivery times, right? Like one of the things I noticed when I looked at a lot of these florist sites that surprised me is I couldn't actually see anything about a delivery guarantee, the length of time between when I would order and when it would get delivered, and how long the window is. Because maybe I want them sent to my mom, but she gets home after 6. So could I set up a 2-hour window, or is it like, you know, meeting your cable company where they're going to come anytime during the day? All of that information, having it really well organized, would make a big difference in the effectiveness of the site. And by the way, this is a pretty good site overall, right? But when it comes to what you should put in the top, put in the top whatever's most likely to make you the most money. What is it that people ask the most, what is it that holds them back, right? Maybe it's fresh flower guarantee that you're putting in the top, where it's like fresh flower guarantee. If the flowers aren't fresh, we'll send you a second set the next day, or whatever your guarantee is. So that would be something that would make it even better. But again, it comes down to knowing your own audience and what it is they're looking for. You see here this quick shop. So this is maybe an easy way for me to find stuff. So let's say I have a new baby. I'm sure there's not going to be anything under $25. Let's go 50 to 75 and then find a gift. So, this is an idea to maybe make things easy for people. One of the things that I would say is if you're organizing your content this way, I would maybe try and make something, if you can, that makes it feel a little more like a fit for the occasion, right? So for me, you saw I picked for having a new baby, but I'm not really sure what any of these flowers have to do with having a baby. So if you can increase that contextual link, it'll do better. But, it is nice, at least as a starting point, to try and help people get organized in their purchase decision and in what they're thinking about doing. You see Shop Our Bestsellers collection. So they're also guiding you toward, quote, their bestsellers, which we know from how most businesses operate may or may not be. Maybe they are, I don't know, right? So we see a lot of these best practices integrated right into this website right from the beginning. They're giving you different ways to shop. I can shop by occasions, or I can shop by products. Again, this should be whatever is most intuitive for your target audience. There's not one answer, and there's not even one answer for every florist. Look at who does business with you and what they would be looking for specifically. And then let's take a look. You see they have testimonials on their site. And as I said, testimonials are great. Online reviews are better. So then you see here, we have the name of the bouquet. I would look to give your products, if you can, include a little more in the detail of the name to improve it for both search engines and people. Because like, what on earth is a Fiesta bouquet to a normal person, right? I see a comment coming in. How about having our own pictures with custom arrangements such as weddings, special occasions, and such? Yes, 100%. That's what I would look to do. If you have your own photos, and especially if you can add context to them, that would make a really big difference. So like, if you think of the search I did for babies as a consumer, like literally I looked at this site a lot, but I hadn't tried that quick search feature. I just did it now. And when I searched babies, none of those flowers seemed to have anything to do with being a mom or babies, right? But if they had even taken the same bouquets, but taken them, I don't know that you would take the bouquet with a baby. I don't know, right? You're probably more creative visually than I am. But if you had taken your own pictures that would show how these flowers could link to a new mom, even just by showing a new mom getting them, whatever it is you can do, or maybe it's an add-on that comes with it, although I know that can get confusing if it's not included. But if you can really show the context, that will make a huge difference, right? So if you're showing just 20 red roses, that's one thing. If you're showing also a picture of red roses and like a happy woman getting them, that's probably even more effective, because that's why we're sending them, right? To make someone happy. It's appealing to the deeper need. So yeah, that's a great idea. Taking your own pictures will make a big difference in the effectiveness of your site, and getting this combination, like you saw with Steve's hunting dog site, right? It's a combination of standard product pictures because people want them, but some user generated pictures, showing it in context, etc. All of that stuff will work well. When it comes to descriptions, this is where there's definitely a lot of opportunities. So you see here, the Fiesta bouquet is composed of a lively mix to celebrate any and every moment. If this was more specific, it would do better. Like, does it come with the vase? What's the vase made out of? Whatever information people would want, include as much as you can. You see the details, is that the detail of the bouquet standing upright? So I would maybe say the jar is this size, the bouquet is this size. These are the flowers that are typically included, and show some realistic pictures. I think all of those things would make a really good, would really strengthen this website, right? So it's good. We're talking how we would make it better. The other thing that's well done on this site is, you see I can choose my delivery time, So I can get next day delivery, I guess. And then here I can do add-ons to it. Add-ons are a great way to increase your average order value. I don't know that I would do a tip for the driver as an add-on personally. Those are more typically found in the checkout process, and that's where I would keep it. I would do the driver tip with the checkout if you can. Maybe this is the easiest and only way to do it though because of the platform, I don't know. But I wouldn't probably put it here, I would put it toward the end. But because what you want to do here is increase your average order value, right? You want to get them to come up with other things they want to buy from this site. One of the other things too, I'll just point out, because we were talking about images, is like I just went on Instagram and searched bouquets. So like I'm not a naturally creative person when it comes to pictures. Maybe some of you aren't either. Look at the way people take pictures of the bouquets they get on Instagram. Like I just searched bouquet flowers or something. And like a lot of these are really stunning. If I saw stuff like this in addition to the stock photos, it would really increase the believability of what I might get. Same with when I looked at a lot of the florists, they have a lot more pictures than are being used on the product pages. And so really look at how you can get more photography or videos on those product pages to really make them stand out as much as possible. If we look at, let me show you this page, here's another good example where again, we'll see this one, shop summer flowers. So seasonal updates to get people interested in what's going on now. Here we see the chat as well, which is really nice. In the corner, we have shopper approved with 4.8 stars. These may be subtle, small things, but they're all increasing people's likelihood to want to do business with you. So we can see, again, a lot of the same best practices we're going to find implemented here, right? We can do add-ons to increase our probability. Again, more pictures is probably the lowest hanging fruit and easiest thing most could do to improve the probability of transacting on their website. But this is another good example of sort of a well done website that has a lot of opportunities. This is another site I saw. I wanted to share it with you because they say our shop is closed for pickup and walk-in, but open for delivery. So they only get money if you buy online. And they do a lot of really smart things with this, right? First of all, they have, even for an individual bouquet, they have 3 different levels and they tell you what's most popular because you're most likely to pick that. They have add-ons built in. Again, missing a huge opportunity with that description to make it longer, more detailed, really build trust, let people know exactly what they're getting and be found by search engines. They also have a deals section, which I thought was interesting. If you have some inventory maybe you need to clear out because it's going to go bad, you could look at something like that in order to get more from it. So as you can see by looking at these sites, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of, again, what I would say is low-hanging fruit, things that you can easily do to start improving your website tomorrow. So I want to leave you with 2 big ideas in addition. I'm sure you all have a lot of ideas written down. And again, use that checklist that I shared with you in the handouts. Download all the handouts, use that checklist. But there's 2 ideas I want to close up with. The first is look at your website analytics. If you're feeling overwhelmed about all these ideas, like, oh, I need more pictures, I need better descriptions, I need this, I need that, look at your analytics and only do the most popular stuff, right? Everything is not equal on your site. Figure out what's most important and put more effort there. Steve only does pictures of the dog products that sell the best. He doesn't do everything. Figure out what are the popular products, what are the popular pages, what's the time on site, what's the engagement rate, which products have the best conversion rates, meaning people buy them, which ones have the worst. And you can use that information to decide where to focus your effort to maximize your impact, right? Because I know you guys don't have all the time in the world, neither do I. But this is where you can be strategic and get bigger impact with less effort. In terms of what to do next, here's what I would suggest. 1, define the role of your website. So what are those 3 or 4 journeys and what do I want people to do? Next is prioritize, right? Use your analytics and figure out what are the things that matter most and work on those first. The other thing that you can do is create a template, like this is what a perfect page looks like, and then you just replicate that out for all your other pages. Once you created it, you saw an improvement in your results and you know it looks good. And then finally, create a list and tackle it over time. you probably have a long to-do list from this. Anytime I talk about any topic, I have my own to-do list where I'm like, oh man, I need to do that. I should do this better, right? So you may have a long list of ideas, but prioritize it and just build a plan to tackle it over time. So I always look at low-hanging fruit. What are things that are really easy for me to do? Maybe during this call, you were like, man, I have all these bouquets at weddings. Why don't I just add those to my product pages? That's low-hanging fruit. Big wins, maybe I'm going to add product level reviews. There's a few of these florist sites that actually do product level reviews where you can review the individual bouquet. Maybe that's something I'm going to do over time. Or shopper to prove is a little more effort, but I'm going to make a point to do that in the next 3 months. And by prioritizing, you'll be able to not feel so overwhelmed and just tackle little bits of this over time to get better and better. So I want to thank you all so much for joining and for your time and attention. You can feel free to reach out with me online. We have a series of 5, so this is only the first one. We're going to get into detail on things like your Google listing and so much more to help you grow your online presence with simple, practical tips. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your time today. Janet, I'm not sure if you wanted to say a couple words as we wrap up.
I do. Thank you so much. That was a lot of great information, and I'm sure everyone can agree that this webinar did not disappoint. So while we give anybody, if there's any final questions that you need to type in there, I want to share a special bonus that's just for those of you that are attending today. If you attend all 5 webinars with Krista, you will be entered in a drawing to win 2 of her books, Digital Marketing That Actually Works, The Ultimate Guide, and its companion, Implementing Digital Marketing That Actually Works, The Ultimate Planner. So if you are not already registered for parts 2 to 5, go to ftdi.com now to make sure you don't miss a webinar with her. And I don't see any more questions. I know I thanks everyone for questions during that. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Recording will be available on demand on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel. And I know we've said it, but I'm going to say it again as a reminder, today's webinar is only part 1 of what we can all agree will be an incredible 5-part e-commerce webinar series. Krista will be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday, July 30th for part 2, Creating a Strong Online Presence. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.